conflict. An essential ingredient for any drama to succeed. A good cast, nuanced script, and capable director, well, they also help. And while a likable character often serves as a reliable vehicle to drive the plot, a great movie can still excel with a wide range of character flaws. Several classic films have benefited from fictional anti-heroes such as Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver or The Man with No Name in early Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns, as well as Michael Corleone in the Godfather trilogy. Similarly, Hollywood has churned out a stockpile of biopics, biographical pictures, despite shining a spotlight on individuals who weren't also Gandhi-esque. As always with this kind of arbitrary list, art forms like cinema are highly subjective. After all, one man's strangers on a train is another's snakes on a plane. Comments are welcome, disagreements expected. Number 10. The Social Network. This 2009 David Fincher film examines the fascinating genesis of Facebook and its boy wonder, Mark Zuckerberg, who morphs from a lonely Harvard student into CEO of the world's largest social media network. But, as the movie's tagline suggests, you don't have 500 million friends without making some enemies. Indeed. The story of Zuckerberg's mercurial rise is both impressive and eerily prescient, as he steals, connives, and screws over friends while building his behemoth creature. Fortunately, the well-crafted drama is also wildly entertaining, featuring a score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and highlighted by the visually stunning regatta scene that plays right into Fincher's wheelhouse. Flash forward to 2019, and Facebook is all grown up with an expanded platform that now includes election meddling, online bullying, endless hate speech, and private data for sale to the highest bidder. And with 2 billion active users a month and facing a never-ending line of litigation, it's probably going to take a hell of a lot more than cute cat videos to fix this glitch. Number 9. Steve Jobs. First of all, let's be clear about which flick is being presented here. We're talking about Steve Jobs 2015 featuring Michael Fassbender. The script, written by Aaron Sorkin, and is under the vision of Academy Award-winning director Danny Boyle. That's the one we're talking about. We're certainly not talking about Jobs, a movie from 2013 starring Ashton Kutcher. Since passing away from cancer in 2011, the actual Steve Jobs left behind an amazing legacy. But like many mad genius types, his demons often made him difficult to be around, in spite of revolutionizing an industry with amazing products. In Steve Jobs, Fassbender exudes his usual commanding on-screen presence and captures the intensity of the tech titan, wrestling with one stupendous crisis after another. Boyle's direction makes for an interesting and unconventional approach that grabs the viewer and never lets go. The talents of Jeff Daniels, Seth Rogen, and Kate Winslet all provide balanced weight in their supporting roles. Number 8. Spirit of St. Louis. This film chronicles the historic first transatlantic solo flight by aviation pioneer Charles Lucky Lindy Lindbergh. Directed by Bill Wilder in 1957, the title takes its name from Lindbergh's single-engine plane and stars Jimmy Stewart, who lends his trademark boyish persona as the historic young pilot, depicted being nearly 50 at the time. In the spring of 1927, Lindbergh's daring flight transfixed a nation and made him a household name. His luster, however, would soon become heavily tarnished with a series of scandals. Lindbergh repeatedly used his elevated platform to advocate extreme nationalist views, including an open letter that ran in Reader's Digest and underscored his blatantly racist and anti-Semitic views. It read, "We can have peace and security only so long as we band together to preserve that most priceless possession, our inheritance of European blood. Only so long as we guard ourselves against attack by foreign armies and dilution by foreign races." Although he served as a pilot and instructor in the Pacific during World War II, Lindbergh's popularity never recovered. Additionally, the married family man would be embroiled in another embarrassment involving an affair with a German woman and the fathering of her 2 children. Number 7. They Died with Their Boots On. Swashbuckling screen legend Errol Flynn stars as U.S. cavalry officer George Armstrong Custer in a highly fictionalized and whitewashed account of the Battle of Little Bighorn. Olivia de Havilland as Mrs. Custer joins Flynn in their 8th and final pairing together, creating the always palpable chemistry between them. Unfortunately, historical accuracy takes a back seat as Custer is seen as a noble and brave soldier and champion of Native American independence. And to that, I guess we could say, horse feathers. Helmed by Hollywood veteran Raoul Walsh, the movie features a series of realistic battle scenes, thrilling stunts by the incomparable Yakima Canutt, and even flashes of comic relief as Custer stumbles his way through West Point, where he finished last in his class. But the soldier's name would forever be remembered for his actions with the fabled 7th Cavalry Regiment and a fatal encounter with the warriors of the Lakota Sioux Nation, led by Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse. Ultimately, Custer's arrogance and poorly conceived strategy resulted in one of the worst defeats in US military history. Furthermore, it's worth noting that the flamboyant Custer made himself an easy target. Literally. Foregoing his standard military uniform, he instead preferred wearing a fringed buckskin jacket replete with a red scarf, gold lace, and a wide-brimmed sombrero that even Liberace would have found over the top. Number 6. Sid and Nancy. This biopic depicts the incendiary romance between punk rock icon Sid Vicious and his girlfriend Nancy Spungen. The 1986 film manages to create both pity and empathy in an unflinching, intimate portrayal of two troubled souls in the grips of heroin addiction. And big spoiler alert here, it does not end well. Gary Oldman delivers a masterful performance as the former Sex Pistols bassist and is well matched by Chloe Webb playing his groupie/junkie love interest. Additionally, the production benefits from a terrific soundtrack. The film begins at the Hotel Chelsea in New York City, where the couple had been living and fighting in squalor. Through flashbacks, we see the development of their destructive codependent relationship. Nancy is later found dead from a stab wound with a knife belonging to Sid, who, in a hazy stupor, doesn't remember what happened. The movie ends with the two lovebirds driving off in a taxicab as part of a prearranged suicide pact, although in real life Sid was arrested and charged with murder, and while awaiting trial he died of a heroin overdose. Gary Oldman initially turned down the role, having little interest in Sid Vicious or punk rock music in general, but after signing on, the London-born actor immersed himself in the character, losing weight to create a convincingly cadaverous-looking drug addict. The movie also foreshadowed another deadly drug-fueled romance, but this one involved Courtney Love, who originally auditioned for the role of Nancy. Number 5. Ray. In a tour de force turn that won him an Oscar for Best Actor, Jamie Foxx transforms into blind R&B icon Ray Charles. Although overly sentimental at times, the film covers both the highs and lows of the singer's tumultuous life and groundbreaking career. His career produced 13 #1 hits, a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and he's been enshrined into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He also first began shooting heroin in his teens and later fathered 12 children by 10 different women. Remarkably, Jamie Foxx doesn't just mimic the legendary entertainer, he embodies him warts and all, and even does all the piano playing himself while perfectly lip-syncing the vocals. Adding to the realism, Foxx wore customary prosthetics throughout the production, limiting his ability to see. The talented cast includes Kerry Washington as the singer's second wife and an outstanding Sharon Warren as his mother. Directed by Taylor Hackford, the 2004 film enjoyed both critical and box office success and earned an Academy Award Best Picture nomination. Hackford actually had acquired the rights to the story in 1987 but could never get a studio backing for it. This is a fact that speaks volumes to the lack of diversity that continues to plague Hollywood. Number 4. Rudy. From director David Anspaugh and writer Angelo Pizzo, Rudy stars Sean Astin in the title role about an ordinary kid with extraordinary dreams. What isn't shown is how the real Rudy parlayed his notoriety into a pump-and-dump penny stock scheme that's neither inspirational nor a Hollywood ending. Released in 1993, Rudy is based on the real-life story of Rudy Rutinger, an undersized athlete from the wrong side of the railroad tracks who, through hard work and determination, plays football for Notre Dame. Well, sort of, like most paint-by-number against all odds sports movies, a healthy dollop of embellishment is added for the sake of making a compelling narrative and developing an emotional investment in the characters. The reality was that Rutinger had been a standout high school player in his hometown before spending 4 years toughening up in the US Navy. Nevertheless, Rudy still works on many levels in spite of its formulaic plotting and half-truths. Astin is superb in the lead, and Charles Durton is nothing short of brilliant in the fabricated role as a Yoda-like mentor. Additionally, the climactic scene, in which several players turn in their jerseys in protest to Notre Dame head coach Dan Devine, never actually happened. In fact, according to Devine, he routinely encouraged Rutinger and was responsible for giving the walk-on playing time in the final game of the season. But the biggest letdown is what occurred after the camera stopped rolling. As a popular and well-paid motivational speaker, Rutinger hoped to get rich by lending his name to a Gatorade knockoff sports drink and installed himself as CEO of Rudy Beverage. He then created a reverse mortgage and entered the stock market, in which he scammed investors to the tune of $11 million, all for a company that had about as much chance of succeeding as Donald Trump did of becoming president. Oh, wait a minute, never mind. Eventually, the SEC ruled that Rutiger had committed several securities violations relating to fraud and ordered him to pay $382,866 in fines. Number 3. The Aviator. Leonardo DiCaprio attempts to fill the shoes of the enigmatic, larger-than-life Howard Hughes in this 2004 Martin Scorsese picture. As expected, we see Hughes dealing with various unflattering phobias and bedding more starlets than Mattress Warehouse. But the reality of Hughes being a crappy pilot, deranged junkie, and spoiled rich brat, well, they go largely ignored. True to the movie's title, Scorsese spends the first hour recreating the making of Hughes' World War I flyboy epic Hell's Angels. That film, which began in the silent era but ended up at talkie, would pioneer several innovative camera techniques and feature some of the most thrilling aerial combat scenes in cinematic history. It also resulted in 4 stuntmen being killed. Hughes also introduced a 19-year-old platinum bombshell to the world, and her name was Jean Harlow. Scorsese, however, is guilty of perpetuating several myths, including the falsehoods that Hughes assembled the world's largest air force for Hell's Angels. He didn't, and that the young mogul was a talented aviator. He wasn't, despite crashing several planes and nearly killing himself in the process. To be fair, Hughes did excel at hype and staged some of the most spectacular Hollywood premieres ever witnessed. But the most egregious whopper surrounding the enigmatic figure is that he was a self-made man. Hughes hit the gene lottery at birth as the son of a wealthy Houston businessman, Howard Hughes Sr., who made his fortune developing a drill bit used in the early days of the Texas oil boom. When the old man died in 1924, Jr. became a millionaire at the tender age of 19. Hughes then added to his substantial fortune by marrying Ella Rice, the daughter of the founder of Rice University. Not surprisingly, the marriage went bust shortly after. The power couple landed in Southern California, where the notoriously promiscuous Hughes quickly started banging everything under the sun. So yes, the movie certainly left a lot out. Number 2. Patton. George C. Scott took home the Oscar, actually he refused it, for his frighteningly realistic portrayal of George S. Patton. Although Patton's tactical brilliance and innovations in tank warfare helped win World War I, he wasn't called Old Blood and Guts for nothing. Patton won a total of 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Original Screenplay. The movie famously opens with Scott delivering a monologue with a gigantic American flag as a backdrop that became the most iconic image of the film. Although the message of American strength and superiority is meant to be aspirational, there's just something fundamentally wrong with it. Hailing from a military family, Patton lived, breathed, and relished the life of a professional soldier, a purpose that began shortly after graduating from West Point. He first gained distinction as an aide-de-camp to General John Blackjack Pershing in World War I and steadily rose to the rank of general in World War II, building a vaunted reputation for his relentless drive and battle-hardened instincts during Allied ground operations in North Africa and Europe. One of the most memorable things from the movie, which is based on a real event, is where Patton slaps a soldier suffering from shell shock. The incident led to Patton being relieved of his command and forced to apologize. As a result, the general missed out on all the fun of D-Day, but soon returned to the battlefield in charge of the Third Army, cutting his way through France like a guillotine through warm brie. Number 1. Raging Bull. Scorsese is back again, topping this list with his magnum opus about the boxer Jake LaMotta. It's shot in glorious black and white, which captures the dark, shadowy storyline, and it also earned De Niro a well-deserved Academy Award for Best Actor. Ask any boxing fan about the Bronx Bull LaMotta, and most will agree the brawler was a tough SOB. When he wasn't fighting in the ring, he spent his time terrorizing others, usually family members, in a maniacal, self-destructive rage. As LaMotta, De Niro seamlessly transitions from a chubby nightclub entertainer into the world middleweight champion, losing 60 pounds in the process. Throughout the production, LaMotta trained De Niro extensively, getting him into tip-top shape while serving as the film's technical advisor for the brutal, blood-soaked fight scenes. Joe Pesci and Kathy Moriarty are spectacular in support, playing the champ's battered brother and wife, and Nicholas Colasanto, best known as coach on the first 3 seasons of the TV show Cheers, is equally stout as the local mob boss. Despite being a quintessential New Yorker, Scorsese has never much been a fan of sports, and he knew nothing about LaMotta's life story until De Niro brought it to his attention. The end result is a film which ranks as not only one of the greatest sports movies ever made, but possibly Marty's finest work. So for those who've never seen it, we'd suggest you do see it, and for those who have, watch it again and marvel at the exquisite craftsmanship of a director and actor at the top of their game. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up below. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Brand new videos just like this every day of the week. If you're looking for another channel where I do daily videos, you should definitely check out Today I Found Out. Similar stuff to this, just not in the top 10 format. Find a link to that on the screen as well as below this video. And as always, thank you for watching.